Hello and welcome back to our channel. In today's video, I'll be using this Musselbound tile adhesive mat to be installing a tile backsplash on our countertop. I first saw this mat a couple months ago and I had my doubts. I'm like, man, how can you just double face tape a tile up? And then I started thinking about it. I was a mechanic for 22 years. All the moldings, all the trim, the little bumper guards on the side of your door, they're all held on by double-sided tape. And I live in Minnesota. It routinely gets to 35, 40 below here. And in the sun, with the sun beating on your car, you can easily have your car hit 150, 180 degrees. So there's a good 200-degree temperature swing between the coldest cold and the hottest hot that those moldings are exposed to. They're also exposed to rain, sleet, snow, hail, really pretty harsh chemicals, especially what they put on the salts and chlorides and that to melt the salt in Minnesota, or melt the ice in Minnesota. And they get to do all this with 70, 80 mile an hour winds blasting across them. They don't come loose. They very rarely come off. So after thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, double face tape could definitely hold up a tile. I watched some reviews, did some reading on it. Really the only complaint I've seen is wet tiles will not stick to this. So if I cut these using my wet saw, I will have to let the tile dry out for 24 hours before I try sticking it on. It's really the only downfall I saw was people were mad that, hey, look at this, my wet tile won't stick. Water evaporates. It's not going to stay wet forever. Just might mean that you can't work quite as fast as you want to. Then again, I'd spend my first day cutting out the sheetrock and putting in backer board if I was doing it the old-fashioned way, or conventional, or whatever you want to say. And yeah, I think this is going to save me time, it's going to save me effort, and I think it's going to be good enough. If this stuff will work for a shower wall, it's got to be good enough for a backsplash. This video is part DIY, part experimental. I hope the experiment goes well. We're soon going to find out. The first step was to trim this to width. I used my chop saw. That worked extremely well. I was really happy with, yeah, this is the side I cut. I can't hardly tell the side that I cut from the factory side. It really cut nice on the chop saw. I have laid it in place, and now I'm going to use my grout float to press it into place. It says you need to press for 5 seconds at each spot, so I'm just going to keep on going. I spent the last probably 20 minutes setting down tiles, deciding what I should have at the end here. And what I've decided is that this wall should be put on first. Then if the tiles go on this wall second, with an 1/8 inch gap there, I'll end up perfect on that end. And I'll have to trim very little off this end. So that end and this end with that will look almost identical. And that's really what I want. What I don't want is I don't want at that end or in a corner some have this skinny little tile. I'd rather take a little bit off of 2 tiles and slide the whole thing over. Sticking the first tile on is always the most nerve-wracking. Make sure everything's measured, everything's right. I think I'm ready for that now. So that's what I should probably get to and quit stalling. I found that a paint stick is 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm using 1/8 inch spacers. I want to space it at 1/8 inch off the countertop. Paint stick is going to be what I'm going to use. I also found that not all paint sticks are created equal. I have about 7 paint sticks. I only found 2 of them that are flat. The rest have a warp or a curve to them. But 2 are flat, that's all I need. I'm going to use these as spacers between the countertop and the tiles. Now, with this, I'm supposed to be able to set the tile there, pull it off, reposition it, reset it, pull it off, reposition it, reset it. Once I'm happy with the way it is, then I press it on using the float. Push it for 5 seconds, it's supposed to stick for life then. At that point, you're going to probably damage the sheetrock or whatever it is behind it, trying to move the tile with the adhesive backing. The ability to be able to move it around and position it is really going to make this nice. Another advantage I see to this is it's a consistent thickness. If I was using thin set, How thick I put it on can make a difference about how far the tile sticks out. How hard I push on the tile will make a difference on how hard the tile sticks out, depending upon how much I squish out that thin set or not. Here, it's going to be exactly the same. If you were laying something like slate, where all the tiles are different thicknesses, this probably wouldn't work at all though for you, because you would need to have those variances in the thickness of the thin set to have the tiles flat on the top. Now would probably be a good time to talk about safety. Let me grab the rest of my safety equipment. I'll be right back. Now would be a good time to talk about safety. I always have a face shield on when I'm using any kind of a grinder or cutting tools like this, cutting stone, because I want to protect my face, I want to protect my eyes. If you wonder why I wear a face mask with an angle grinder, Google image search angle grinder accidents. You won't wonder why anymore. Unfortunately, the respirator doesn't fit underneath the face mask. I protect my face before I protect my lungs. You do what you want to do, you do you. Also, you're going to notice that this guard is not over the blade, it's straight up in the air. I want to see the blade. I want to know what the blade is at. I want to know what the blade is cutting. I feel safer seeing the blade. I don't even own a blade cover for my table saw. Never came with one. I bought the saw used. I'm not going to buy one. I feel that not being able to see the blade is more dangerous than having a guard to say, hey, don't put your fingers in here. I know not to put my fingers in there. You do safety for you. Personally, I pick a face mask over a respirator, but if I didn't need the face mask, I definitely would have on the respirator. Here's a perfect place to demonstrate where a little bit of pre-planning gives you the best outcome at the end. If I were to stick this tile on here and cut a little tile for here, this little tile would look kind of weird. And do I fit a whole tile there? Yep, and then this tile would be most of a tile. That part would look all right. But if I slid this whole thing over a little bit and I make it so this tile and this tile are the exact same size, I will get the best overall look. So what I'll have to do is end up cutting a little bit off of this tile and a little bit off of this tile versus cutting a little bit more off of this tile. A little bit more work, but you get a symmetrical outcome, and symmetry always looks best. Maybe I look at stuff that other people don't look at, but I look at tiles and I'm like, I'll watch tiles go across the wall and I'll see these strip at the end, and like gas station bathrooms are the worst. I don't know who tiles gas station bathrooms, but they always start at one edge and just go across. There's no pre-planning or thought to it. It's just, let's slam some tiles on the wall and get her done. To me, a couple minutes of pre-planning will give me an outcome that I want to look at for years to come. I have no fear of the tiles coming loose or coming off. This worked very well. I'm happy I chose it. I'm happy I decided to use it. Now that the tiles are installed, it's time to grout. To grout, I'm going to use Fusion Pro Grout. This is my favorite grout. This will be the third or fourth time I've used it. It is a very good grout, a high quality grout. It's not the cheapest grout, but it's the best grout I've ever used. Because I'm using natural stone, I bought grout release. What this is designed is to paint on the front of the tile, and then it makes it so the grout will not stain the tile. They do say that this may discolor some tiles, so I painted some onto this extra tile. Half of it's painted, half of it's not. I don't see a discolorization now. It's only been about 20 minutes. You're supposed to wait 30 minutes for it to dry. So another 10 minutes or so, I'll scrub that off. If I can't tell one side from the other, I'll be ready to get to this backsplash. The grout release did not change the color of my test tile at all, so now it's time to paint it onto all the tiles. And I have put tape on both the wall and the countertop to keep both the grout release and the grout off of them as best as I can. I have two different grout floats. I'm going to have to use this one on a lot of it because this one's just too big to fit underneath the pencil molding. But this if it fits, this would be the float to use. You start out with with a glob of grout on the float or on the tile, whatever's easier for you, and holding the float at about a 45-degree angle, you push the grout into the grooves. Then you work that around, and with it at about a 45-degree angle, you push that grout into those grooves. Ideally, you'd push it at about a 45-degree angle to where the tile lines are. Once you have the grout filling up all the grooves, you then hold it so it's closer to a 90-degree angle, and at that same 45-degree angle to the tiles, you scrape that surface that will leave the grout in the cracks and will take most of the grout off of the top. In this area, in these skinny little areas, I'm not going to be able to run that at a 45-degree angle. The float's almost as wide as the spot. Even this small float takes up well over half of it, so I'm just going to have to push it in straight. I'm going to have to be careful. Worst case, you get too much grout back out and you just have to reapply the grout. As long as I'm careful, I should be able to do it. But ideally, you would go at about a 45-degree angle to the seams in the tile. I will also need microfiber towels to clean up the grout. And this sponge that has a microfiber towel on one side and a sponge on the other side, this is by far my favorite grout sponge. I threw away my other grout sponges after buying this one. This microfiber side just works way too well. And you'll need a bucket. You're going to have to refill the bucket with water as soon as it gets dirty. I find that about every 4 or 5 minutes when I do that, I just start over with a new bucket of water each time. And the bucket's probably half full of water. The first step is to dampen the tiles with a sponge. I will admit I forget to do this half the time, and I don't really notice the difference. But it probably spreads easier with the water there. Once this grout is dried for 24 hours, I'm going to use this caulk, which is also made by the manufacturer of the grout, and seal between the countertop surface and the tile. Then I'm going to use this clear caulk that's also paintable, and I'm going to seal along the top, and then I'll patch the paint on the top where I thought I was going to put the tile taller than I ended up doing it. But wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be able to caulk it, and then I'll be done. I've cut off the tip of this caulk tube with about as small a hole as I can, so I have the most control as possible. I've given that just a couple of minutes to start curing. I don't want to give it too much time, but I don't want to hit it with the water like seconds after I lay it down either. I'm going to give a very light mist of water over it. The water is really a lubricant to allow my finger to smooth it out easier. It doesn't, you're not trying to wash off what you just put on. You just want a little bit of lubricant. And I found a little bit on your finger helps a lot too. The only step left is install one more box extender, and I have all the tile backsplash done. I've already installed the box extenders over there. I just have this one left to go. Box extenders came in a 2-pack. These ones can snap together if you had outlets in a gang. I do not. I only need one more. They're basically just a hollow backed electrical box that sits within the box. And it also comes with a couple of screws that are a little longer than the original screws. And that's all the steps needed to use Musselbound tile adhesive mat. I'd never used it before. I'm not sponsored by them. It's a product I saw. I wanted to give it a try, and I'm really happy with the results. It went on smooth. It was easy. It was really pretty foolproof. Still have to grout. Still have to make sure you put your tiles on square and straight and all that kind of fun stuff. But for the most part, it was really easy. You stuck the tile. You could reposition the tile. Once you got it where you wanted it, you pushed it down real hard, and it was there for life. Well, maybe not life, but I'm sure you're going to get the 15 years out of it that I got out of my original backsplash, and really that's all I'm looking for. 15 years from now, it's going to be time to update it again anyway. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you like this video. If you do like this video, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace.